It's interesting that you mentioned the 5:55 because I woke up at 5:55 a.m. on the 5th of February and I thought like, that's specific.
Once again. Yeah, these number 5 guys just keep coming in so many ways these days, and 22s and 33s, and sending a message to someone at 22 or 11:22 or see. Anyway, I'm so excited. I'm really excited about this topic, and it's really nice to know. I'm almost thinking that you could make a funny video about how you prepare for this, and just put it out there.
At some point we will actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a good idea.
And then,
we will.
The video is, in the sacred floor somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good idea. I think we need to do that.
It's literally hilarious every single time.
Yeah.
Actually, now I can totally imagine, because for me it was like, Jesus, how many hours these poor guys are preparing for this. I mean, the whole life obviously has been a preparation. I understand that, but for me it was like, okay, and you will talk about this, and I will talk about that, and
yeah, that's what happens.
I didn't expect this cosmic jamming with God.
Yeah. What Pepe tells us, Pepe Danse, like our beautiful shakuhachi jazz Zen master, he says, like what you need to do.
I don't know, but I know.
Yeah. So he's like saying that the only duty of a musician is to work on his technique. So you master the technique, master that you effortlessly express yourself through the instrument and leave the rest to the divine. Divine will play you. You don't play the instrument. Divines play the instrument through you. So I always remember that even before I'm, sitting to compose something, or it's a beautiful insight.
I'm so grateful to relate to that very much.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
So
let's have
here,
a little
cups
tease.
up. Cheers. Beautiful to see you all. Yeah. So we have Anne, Jive, Emma,
We have Emma.
Zane,
You're walking somewhere in the
Vanita.
forest with a teacup or something.
Anna, Fabiana, Eleonora. Cheers.
So cool. Like you're walking with a teacup. Wonderful. That's the dedication to the tea.
Emma, is that Hungary or Sri Lanka?
The dress looks more like Sri Lanka.
Hi guys.
Oh,
Are you in Sri Lanka?
it.
Oh my God, great. Okay, so
Going down to the beach in 1 minute.
amazing.
I'm going to reach the beach.
Oh, send us some vibes.
Well, so cool. Well, I'm already feeling the
I send
vibes.
you the sunset vibe going this
Oh,
way.
Okay, this is now
Nice to
officially
see you.
invitation. Invitation from Sri Lanka. Somehow we are going kind of above, below India, below India, Nepal, Sri Lanka. You need to land to India finally as well. Beautiful to see you guys. This is Fabiana has a morning face. It's early in Brazil, right? Cool. So good to see you. Okay. So, big topic today. In a way, continuation of our topic from last week. But like I said in the introduction of the session, it's going to really be an interesting period now. We know that Pluto has been in Capricorn for some time. So we know that the old structure, old rules, old institutions are decomposing. And we see it all around, yeah? But now what we have happening in that same house is that Mars and Venus are coming together. So imagine it's like female and male are going to be dancing together and going from Capricorn past to future to Aquarius. And literally it's happening from the Valentine's Day. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
For the 3 weeks after that. So, it's an extraordinary opportunity for us to actually radiate how we want this beautiful dance to happen. And we can do it by embodying those drives in ourselves and with our loved ones, both with ourselves and with our loved ones, and to actually project this. This is how the universe, we want it to work. This is how we want the world to be. This is the world that we want to create. Otherwise, it's going to be random. It's going to be however somebody else wants the world to be. And unfortunately, the majority is showing us what state of inner balance they are. The state of inner balance of majority of people is reflected in the world right now. So it's stifling the female and actually even denying that it exists, because
it's fear of any kind of natural feminine expression, which would be like inner knowing without proofs, tuning in. So extreme fear of masculine, of this uncontrollable feminine knowledge. So that clash has been going on for a long time, and now it's in our hands to kind of balance it out. But we need to know how and what is there to be balanced, and actually how to daily take care of it.
Yeah. So last time we talked about balancing inner masculine and inner feminine, and this time we will look at many more ways to work with inner polarities, because it's not the only one. It's not only inner masculine and inner feminine. It is how what are these two opposing forces that we have inside and how to work with them, like a battery that has plus and minus pole, which makes it actually able to run and propel whatever we plug the battery in. So it creates energy, but by having two poles. So when we look at number two is not 1 + 1. In mathematics it is, but actually in a deeper numerology, number two, essence of number two is number one polarized. So number one, when we have one, it is, one source, it's complete, it doesn't move because it's in a complete state of perfection. To start creating, we first polarize one into two, we give it the plus and minus, and now it starts to oscillate. And now the movement begins and the creativity begins. So this is the essence of polarities. It is two that has been contained in one, but it has polarized itself in two so that the creation can start. So today we will look in how many ways we embody this in ourselves and how we can use all those ways of how we are polarized inside. Only one way is masculine and feminine. There are many more. So that's what we're going to be covering today. So what we want to start with is to hear a little bit about your own experience. What do you consider to be an inner balance?
How does it feel for you?
What is it and how does it feel to have an inner balance?
Or maybe the questions about and around it.
Yeah. We would like to see what is the level of understanding right now so that we can build and go deeper.
So smiles, that means the question is somehow alive within you. I don't think there is one person in this earth who has never wondered, like, what about the inner balance?
Yeah, how am I balanced? How do I feel when I'm balanced? I think I've seen Jive is starting some
Jive from
to laugh.
Porto.
So let's hear from you, Jive. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Okay, interesting question. Balance. How do you know balance when I'm not even sure I have ever actually felt it?
Yeah.
Oh, you're a handsome cunt. But yeah, and this is the whole thing. What's the reference point for this when you've never actually ever known it or had it or imagined it, or I think it's this, I think I had it for 5 seconds 10 years ago. I'm sure everybody can relate to this kind of thing. Balance, and while we're on the question of balance too, one of my favourite bands, Jim Morrison and the Doors, I think it was the drummer, mentioned something about of course you're familiar with their music, and everybody seems to be these days in the spiritual realm or whatever, into enlightenment, everything's about enlightenment and stuff. And these guys said we weren't so much into that, we were into endarkenment. Now there's one for you, because that's the other polarity. How can you have enlightenment if you don't get into endarkenment? And then maybe it's the balance we're looking for, which is of course the shadow, and integrating the whole shadow thing, or I don't know, endarkenment. Why aren't we all going for, I want to be endarkened? As something to aspire to, rather, I want to be enlightened and wear white robes and everything. No offense, you guys look great and white. You know what I mean? I like black. I like wearing all black, and that to me is that's just how I feel, and it makes me feel great. And other people say, "Oh, don't wear all black, or it's all this." I'm not going. It's just a freaking color, mate. Who gives a shit? You know, white, black, yellow, purple. Today, so it's and once again the whole polarity thing, and the whole swinging thing, and the whole balance thing, and does it really even matter? Be happy. Really?
Yeah.
So at that point, I don't give a shit about just about anything. And I don't say that in an uncaring way. I say that in a I couldn't care less. In a caring way. Because whether this happens or whether that happens, you've got to deal with this, then you've got to deal with that. Oh, I'm polarized. Oh, I'm this. I'm having a great day. I'm having a sad day. And it doesn't matter. It really matters.
Okay,
Once you get to that point where nothing matters really doesn't matter. But when still I should be not caring about nothing mattering. I should care about something. It's just like, what the hell for? It's all a friggin' hologram anyway. Apparently. So, anyway, I've said enough. You guys.
Yeah.
well, Jive, now we can go home, and you've said it all. And you're completely right.
Yes.
You're totally right. That's exactly you've given a crash course in polarities, and exactly the disbalance that we wanted to talk about. How about absolutely striving for enlightenment and forgetting about endarkenment? Yeah, very, very good question, and it's amazing because
In purplement, in redment, in yellowment. I mean, really.
Exactly. So the only reason you're asking why does it matter, the only thing that matters is to understand it, to have consciousness around it, and then, like to play with all colors, with dark, with light, with yellow, with green, with whatever, because it really doesn't matter. But the thing that does matter is whether we do it ignorantly or we do it with some level of consciousness. That's the only thing that to some extent matters, although that doesn't also matter that much either. But that's one thing that we can do as conscious beings, is at least to kind of play with it in consciousness rather than being unconsciously moved by these drives as with waves and become overwhelmed by them. You know, this, if we learn how to surf these waves, then we actually enjoy more the game of surfing rather than being, you know, tumbled with waves and having no idea where we're getting. That's the only thing why we are actually getting into this. And what happens now is the waves are becoming amazing for surfing when Mars and Venus come together and create this amazing creative wave. So that's why we want to get to learn it to swim quick enough so that we can swim with them. That's the only reason.
But the fundamental point, yeah, that light doesn't matter more than the dark, and nothing really matters at all. If you take it from that point of not caring, but just accepting that that's the way it actually is, with peaceful detachment.
Oh, it was so inspiring. We had to respond immediately, but let's hear.
Yeah, we'll get back to that.
Yeah, but beautiful conclusions. Thank you, Jive. I love it. Would anyone else like to chip in? What does it feel for you to be balanced? Do you know what it is?
And by the way, Jive, we're not only all in white, we're balancing it out with black cat.
Black cat and
Sylvia
black underwear.
Sylvia is balancing one arm covered, one uncovered.
Vanita, I see the hand up. Please unmute yourself.
Hi. Yeah, so for me, balance is, it's quite interesting that this topic has come up today, because like I was going through a bit of like interesting things that went on the past week or more. Yeah, so like something really, like, you know, ordinarily, I guess it's quite elating. So something really happy happened, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine, you know, that kind of thing. It wasn't like extremely joyful and stuff like that. I didn't really feel that so much. And then more recently, like a few days ago, there was like kind of a breakup of a relationship, and I'm like, okay, you know, that kind of thing. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? I'm not feeling it. Nothing. I'm not feeling like this drama. You know, this. Of course, I was a bit sad, but then it's like, yeah, you know, and then it's kind of like, not even rationalizing it. Whereas I know that maybe 10 years ago or more, before I started meditating and all this stuff, I mean, seriously, like everyday thing. So I used to like really feel it, you know, like things like this happen, especially when the so-called negative stuff, like, you know, sad things, like, you know, of course, there was grief, like when, you know, a couple of years ago, lots of people died all at once, like 17 of them. So that really kind of, even though it wasn't like so dramatic, but it was a grief period, I have to mention, but it wasn't that, like, you know. And so I'm thinking, what happened there? I'm thinking, what happened? Is there a block of the emotions? But I don't feel it. So I'm just thinking, is that what it means to be balanced? That I'm not way so side like a bipolar, you know, like, you know, one side and then the other side, and then I'm like, ding, 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 like I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then it's like, yeah, and then I'm just a little bit more. I mean, if I really feel as if I'm a little bit off balance, then I tend to kind of just go for a walk and look at the birds, look at the sky, look at the nature, and then just kind of come back or go for a swim or dance or do something, you know. And it's just that fast. So I'm just thinking, okay, is that what balance means? And I yes, I do agree. Like sometimes, I think for many people, it's hard to find that balance as well, and that's the work that I do as you know what I do. So to help people find a little bit of a balance, but I'm also like I'm always incorporating that meditation bit into the work that I do. So and I find that helpful. So yeah, that's my kind of feedback on that one. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Vanita. I love this example. I'm trying to feel stress about it, but it just doesn't happen. So it's like I'm supposed to feel sad, but I'm a little joyful. So like, what's the problem? I had this recently. Last summer. We went to the pool here, and they had some ridiculous rules, like you have to have a little cap or whatever, like special type of swimsuit. And I'm just expecting, oh, now the surge of anger will come. This makes no sense. And it's not coming. And I honestly cannot get angry. It's like, oh, this is what you are requiring? Well, okay, whatever. Just going to put it on and go and swim. And I'm honestly surprised how no agitation is coming. And this is so cool to be surprised. That kind of points back to the work that you have done. You're supposed to be super triggered and you're not. Amazing.
Yeah,
Beautiful example.
This will be one of our points in the 7 myths about the inner balance. You'll see we'll get to that. Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. Would anyone else like to share what is the inner balance for you guys? Yes, Sylvia.
For me, it's more about being harmonious versus, well, not versus, but being balanced, because I'm realizing that actually for me, I don't always like to be balanced. I kind of, sometimes I like to feel more of this or more of that, or it's actually good for me to connect with my inner fire or connect with that stagnation or whatever. So for me, if I can stay harmonious while in balance, for me that's the root, or that's more of what I'm aiming for. I don't even know balance really is, because if it's like you have like equally even from every let's say every element, then you would say it's balanced, but then where does that go? Then it's just like a nasi champur, and then there is peanuts, the same amount of peanuts, and I don't like peanuts, so that goes off the plate, and then the rice, I don't want rice, and then I'm just ending up with a little bit of something for the sake of, but this is the balanced food. So for me, it's more of the having harmony even when I'm in balance. So
beautiful.
Yeah. I'm just repeating myself. That's it.
Yeah, it's so important. Thank you, Sylvia. Well, I love it. I love all of these feedbacks because they're illustrating what we call this session is 7 myths about inner balance.
We try to narrow it down because we know that if we catch someone by surprise and ask, like I asked Zane, well, what do you think is or is not in balance within you? And she's like, well, based on what we have recently talked, the masculine and feminine, but there's no really, we haven't given it a thought because also we don't really know where to look for what is or is not in balance. So we try to narrow it down, and we'll take you through the steps. Hopefully it will give the options.
Yeah. Well, one of those topics is this: when I mean balanced, does it mean that I have to be peaceful and inactive? Because there are these things that we kind of inherit from the meanings, and they don't necessarily mean that. Inner balance don't necessarily mean that, actually.
Well, that brings us to the first myth, where it's considered that inner balance is the monk Zen monk sitting on the temple door and meditating and being in a static state. So
In
there's
a
this.
piece of calm and peace and doing nothing. That is one of the myths.
Yeah.
And it's not really that. So
what is it really? Is inner balance equal inner peace or any kind of calm state? Well, guess what? Not necessarily, because the inner balance is about a dynamic, peaceful but dynamic state. It's like, like riding a bicycle. So is it
static?
static
No.
or active? Is it like over? It's not like jumping on a trampoline. It's actually a very kind of harmonious movement forward. Yeah. So riding a bicycle would be the closest example to what an active inner balance means, which means you are in a motion and you manage to stand straight. You know what happens if you start pedaling with one foot, or you stop pedaling at all, or you pedal a little bit and then not. Yeah. So it's a constant dynamics, which is created by our polarities, by our passive and active side, by our masculine and feminine,
Spirit and matter, many of the things that we carry inside. Yes.
It's feeling and doing. So it's a constantly dynamic state where we're actually moving through life with the less possible friction. That's what one of the functions of inner balance is, being like a wheel round. And why, as Sadhguru says, why is the wheel round and not triangle? That would be more fancy. Because it moves forward with least amount of friction. And that's what inner balance is absolutely necessary for, if you want to move through life with a certain overall sense of harmony and ease.
So important thing to always keep in mind, that inner balance doesn't imply sitting still. It is a dynamic state. That's why from one became two, because these two start interacting, and it's constant state of interaction in between of them. So if we imagine the bicycle and the pedals, one leg being one polarity, one foot being one polarity, another foot another, they are working constantly together. One will not be able to move it. Another example is the acrobat walking on a tightrope with the pole. So now he's doing it with his hands. He's maintaining the balance of right and left polarity while walking forward and moving. So it is very, very active and productive state. Concentration is needed. If he loses concentration for one moment, both in a bicycle and in a tightrope, the state of movement will stop, we will fall. So this is what's required: concentration and constant observation of keeping that balance.
So the next myth is what we have encountered is that inner balance is needed to have a life with no problems or less problems. Yeah. So if you're balanced, everything will kind of take care of itself. It is true, but not quite. It's not how we imagine it. And the inner balance doesn't guarantee that you will not have the problems. It's just that from that state, you'll be very constructive about it. Well, yesterday I received like very bad news, and if I was a little bit more in balance, I would have had like 3 solutions instead of one crisis. Yeah. So when we know and at all times have this peace, like, well, inner balance, we do not take things too seriously. Yet we're again using this perfect dynamics, tuning in and acting. The disbalance reaction to problems would be either I freeze, or I cry under my blanket, or I hide away and I do nothing about it, or I get angry and I start kind of shooting in random directions and in agitated ways, unconstructive ways, going about my problem. So solving the life's challenges from the perspective of inner balance is that you will have this moment of, okay, wait a minute, let me see what's going on.
Assessing the situation.
And then saying, okay, I feel that, it's not quite okay. And then the other masculine side would say, okay, I could do this. Let's assess together inside what are our options and which ones we will explore first. And then we go for plan A, plan B, plan C. And sometimes, most of the time, because also intuition is involved, it is solved much easier than, just blindly doing something, whatever.
And then if the higher vision is able to come there between male and female or plus and minus polarity, it would even be able to ask, what is the opportunity here? It seems like a negative situation. It seems like a problematic situation. What is my opportunity here? That is the question of the higher way of seeing things. And that could even inspire those inner masculine and feminine to have even better solutions. Mm-hmm. Because there's always opportunity.
Plus, if there's inner balance, we will talk about what kinds of inner balance we have. So if there's a balance between heaven and earth within ourselves, that kind of inner balance, then also things will not come in a very dramatic way. They will come because it's part of our spiritual journey, and we need to have it for some reason. But also it will come with like a little soft pillows and general assistance. Exactly. So it won't be like huge slaps. Huge slaps come only when we have repeatedly ignored a message, and then it's kind of we asked for it. So that's the inner balance for life, for being constructive about life's problems, without saying that there won't be any, but they will be as smooth as your inner state.
Yeah, with this question actually of life problems comes actually this important notion of what is responsibility. And responsibility taken as two words: response, ability. Ability to respond to any situation that comes our way. And this actually is a great reminder to understand, if I see things from the place of what is the opportunity in this situation, my response ability is limitless. I can respond in any number of the ways, and I am going to kind of be empowered by the knowledge that I am able to respond in any way that I want. That's my freedom. And I can, when I know that I can respond in any number of the ways, well, I will then choose one of those ways. But it's important to remember with this that our responsibility is actually limitless. Our ability to respond to any given situation. So, a note with this one.
So a third myth, that inner balance is almost impossible in the world we live with all the obligations, family members, distractions, and general chaos. It's kind of difficult to... Some people say, yeah, how do you want me to have inner balance with all that is going on around? Yeah. And this is where we have to look from a very heightened perspective, that chaos around is just the reflection of unbalanced inner state. As we said, what we see outside, the big wheels trying to kind of take away people's individualities or striving for awakening. It's this century-long inner disbalance that is playing out in a visible form right now. Same for noisy neighbors, same for the place you live. I don't think most of you live in a very balanced environment, but if you live in a chaotic environment, then it's an invitation to see like what in me looks like that what I don't like outside. like screaming, quarreling neighbors, or chaotic city, and hectic work life. Well, you guys are happy, happy and chill, but many people really do not have almost any outer balance. So what happens is that because it's the reflection of the inner state, well, you happen to be in an environment that does reflect your inner state. So if you are in Bali, that means your inner balance is pretty kind of chill, I would say. And then what to do about it, how to get that inner balance if there is this chaos or noise or something. Well, by shifting that which is creating the disbalance inside, well, the outer reality will adjust. Either you'll pop out of that environment that's now become too imbalanced for your new state, or the people will move out, or you will move out, but something will change, but the change will have to start within you.
This is actually, we cannot stress this strong enough. If we feel like as individual I cannot influence too much the world events, it is absolutely not true. Actually, we influence world events by establishing unprecedented levels of inner work and inner balance, because we cannot help but share whatever we have accomplished in our personal journey in the collective consciousness. So the deeper, the stronger level of inner work that you have done is shared at the same time with whole humanity. So what is happening usually is that there are too many buzzing sources of information distracting us from that inner work. But if we are able to understand that certain period of time is important, and in this period I will really concentrate in observing what's happening in myself and making that balance even stronger than ever before, these achievements are being infused in collective consciousness. And
well, that's what the monks do.
Exactly.
That's what the monks do in Buddhist temples. This is what they do all day long, every day, all their lives. They are creating this inner balance and systematically sending it to the world. So they are working from anonymous and completely invisible sides. But just to say that you have the power to change your outer surroundings and not the other way around, it doesn't mean, like I have, for example, guests here that like in this place there's like absolute total peace, but like deafening silence, yeah. But if there's someone that comes with like huge inner buzz, then even for them there will be a squirrel jumping on the roof, or a cat walking, or a mouse or something, you know, or some kind of noise that will come out of nowhere, which is never here at any other time. So people do come with their inner disbalance and create some kind of manifestation of that sort around them. So inner balance comes from within and not from without. The without is the result of the first. Yeah. So number 4, inner balance is when nothing really matters. So here we come to your theory, Jai.
Yes.
So that's a myth that nothing really matters. But the reality is more of a nuanced approach. The inner balance has touched this space, as you say, the enlightenment and endarkment is familiar with the concept of life, but also of the death. Can wear white, can wear black, yeah, and has no strong preferences. So the thing about if does it matter or does it not is when we give exaggerated importance to things having to be such way. We could be completely out of balance by wearing only orange, or by wearing only blue, or by wearing or having to do things in a certain way. But when you look in the bigger picture, really it doesn't matter what color you wear, and you don't have to fight for it. If there is any area that you are defending, fighting for, shall it be light or your right to something, like anything at all that you have to defend, well, that's where there is no non-inclusion of the other position. Like they if you insist on wearing only orange, yeah, that would be kind
What
of
happens with
excluding the
purple?
blue.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it the balance is in somewhere in Sylvias nasi champur. Okay, let the peanuts out because I really don't like them. I would do the same. But in different proportions. We don't have to wear every day of the week one color, right? To be in balance. But we have to touch all the colors in a kind of natural way, a little bit of each, and not be stuck only in black, or only in white, or only in yellow, or only in blue. So something that asks from us total kind of exclusivity is out of balance, and will invite its opposite.
It's important to look here when we say enlightenment and endarkenment. It's important to look at two topics. One is life and death. Another one is good and evil. So
and the third one is the cosmic principle of light and dark. Because we have the good and evil, that's in the realm of people, yeah. Good, bad, angels and demons. It's in a human realm. But then there's like absolute principle of life and no life.
So what we would say, absolute principle of life and no life, is there any movement at all, which is considered life, an activity, there's something that is moving, or absolute stillness without any movement at all. So this is absolute dark and absolute light. If we look at the good and evil, this has been a huge topic, like even in Bible and in those kind of first Christian myths, it was said that Adam and Eve were not ready to look at the question of what is good and evil, and because they insisted into looking into this question, they fell out of Eden, which means it is this: they were not ready to work with certain forces of the universe, so they actually touched them and they densified. So they stopped being in this etheric realm, they densified and actually got bodies. And then from those bodies, they started to work within the limitations of the material world, because they touched the currents that they were not ready to work with. Some species were able at the time to work with it. Those were not yet ready. So for us, we are actually having to learn to understand that one could not exist without the other. So what we call good would not be able to be perceived without the evil. And evil is none other than unknown. So this that we don't understand, that we truly don't understand, we call evil, because we have no idea what it is, and it can affect our life in any given way. How we can approach this is by giving the authority to actually explain that to us, to the higher aspect of ourselves. So we are not yet ready to understand how this works, but we can strive to get towards the higher levels of consciousness where things are much clearer than in our current monopoly game in living in bodies. So this includes understanding that we have kind of decided to play a certain game. We are unlimited energetic beings with complete unlimited possibility to operate with outside of time, space, and any limitations of the material world. But we have decided that we want to spend certain time of our existence entering into the time and matter realm. And this is the incarnations that we are in now. And like every other game, this game has rules. Like Monopoly game has rules that we accept because they're severely limiting our everyday life. But we accept these limitations in order to have a certain experience of consciousness. And we enjoy playing the game with those rules. There's some kind of money, there's some things that we are supposed to conquer there. And, there are like little game rules. Each game we play has rules, chess as well. Same for incarnation in a body. We have, as limitless beings, accepted a certain set of limitations so that we experience on behalf of creative consciousness of the divine how it is to live and act in limitations of body and time. So if we understand this, we understand that from this perspective that we have when we are in the bodies, we will not understand the principles of good and evil because they are beyond the consciousness level that's required. So we can know that after we leave the bodies, we will know it again. This is one way. The other way is we can embark in the journey of higher consciousness, either using psychedelics or deep meditation, where we start reaching higher and higher levels of consciousness. And in those moments, we will have insight into those higher truths and then come back and try to actually embody them, to incorporate them in this 3D existence. Some of the concepts are able to be incorporated, others will still stay outside of that possibility. But when it comes to good and evil, this is how we have to look at it. We have to understand that from our material perspective, it's impossible to fully understand it, but for some other higher levels of consciousness, it is. And we can strive to get there, to temporarily have a glimpse and then come back. So this is that question of good and evil. Question of life and death is similar. It's one thing. If we have decided to live, our body will deteriorate and die. This is one of the roles of Monopoly game that we are in. So one cannot exist without the other. Knowing that the time in this incarnation is limited means that we have inspiration and sense of urgency to actually explore this incarnation to the highest possible level that's possible for us, that we wanted. We will have other incarnations, we will have other things to do then, but in this incarnation, knowing that there will be end of this body, not end of this consciousness, but end of this body, we can at least try to see what can we do with this body during that limited time. And that's all there is to it. It gives us a little impetus to actually throw those dice and play the game and not like kind of sleep and, forget about it. So that's about life and death. That's, again, both work together. They work together, same as that bicycle. The existence of death gives us impetus to actually create something now, play with the body now, and then it goes back and forth like this. And maybe to learn about the processes, how we go through the portal of that, to kind of be a little bit more interested about the whole topic. So you see, it's very, very creative again. And not something that we want only life or we want only that. Both cooperate together. So these two topics, I think, were important for that point.
Well, if this was a little too cosmic for you, then I can say it in one sentence. That nothing really matters is no thing really matters. Yeah? And if you play, it's a little bit provocative idea. If you play with it, that does it matter what you do and why does it matter? Is there a point in you sitting and listening to us, or is there a point in you having a tea by yourself at the same time, or if there's a point if you would rather sleep at the same time? So understanding that there's no fundamental point in anything that we really do, because it's because of impermanence, because of our limited understanding of whose game are we playing in. Are we the little chess figures in a bigger game? You can take the thread down to this fundamental do you have a preference, and do you give importance to one thing rather than other? Do you put more importance in light than the dark? And if so, maybe you have not felt the essence of the dark. So this is an open invitation to look at this fundamental duality that we have come from, and the ultimate balance is when we have no preference between enlightenment and endarkenment, and when no thing really matters. Mm-hmm. Yet it has nothing to do with I don't care. It's completely different energy. I don't care is helplessness, inability to act, desperation and frustration. But no thing really matters gives me freedom to do everything.
To be anything
or
and
be
do it.
anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
it's actually non-attachment. That's what it is. Preference versus attachment. When we are attached, we are strongly attached to one or the other. If we have a preference, say like anyone is fine. Maybe I'll go with dark today, or maybe I'll go with light today. But there is no fundamental attachment.
There are consequences in the world of our preferences, because if we massively, people who massively fight for peace, they the universe is balancing it out by creating more of chaos. So we have to be very careful when we go for a very fixed idea and very strong preference, because universe will always seek to balance it out. Those who are like only with angels, will probably live in an environment that's
pretty hellish,
dense and hellish, because the universe is just trying. It's a basic law of the universe. It will balance it out for you if you don't. You can pull it to one side. It will give you the opposite to cancel your overexcitement about something. And when you pull the elastic on one side, you know what happens when that goes back. So very careful with creating with your own hands a kind of disbalance, and observe in your life when we say after high comes the low. It is for this reason that nature loves balance.
Yeah, well, nature is also riding that bicycle. Mm-hmm. So the pedal has to go up and down. Another thing comes in is it's about the heaven and hell, because it's in the same kind of topic. So I'll just kind of quickly illustrate what hell is. So everybody is afraid of hell, yeah, because this has been on Buddhist tankas and it has been in Christian stories and all that. But what hell is getting face to face to the deepest fears that humanity holds. So face to face with fears, whenever we face the fear and sit through it, we actually transcend the necessity to fear this anymore, because we understand that this is part of some sort of scenario that is limited to this level of consciousness. So looking and observing accumulated fear through centuries of the humanity's existence is the way to release those levels and completely make them obsolete, to be able to make us afraid of them anymore. Because where we are going as humanity is humanity at very, very much higher vibration. Much more light will be able to go through us, and I don't mean light versus dark, just energetically, much more energy will be able to go through our body. For now we are stifled with number of fears that have collectively been accumulated through the very animalistic history that we went through. Abusive history of extreme greed and stuff like that. So now, really, through the journeys that we are doing, through psychedelic journeys or through meditations, we are actually able to witness deepest fears of humanity. Mass murders, like helplessness, a lot of things that had happened, and actually sit through that and process that in ourselves so that this gets purged out of human consciousness, so that we can cleanse out. It's almost like puking at ayahuasca trip and getting it out of our body for the whole humanity. So this is what hell is, nothing else. It's being faced with deepest fears of humanity, and actually what we need to do is go through it and clear it so it doesn't exist anymore. So just a note. What else is active in this period?
Okay, well, let's get back to our points. And the fifth is that inner balance is making you kind of boring. Because as Vanita said, I don't really feel like super excited or super joy, and I don't feel super sad. So there's this misconception that balanced people are plain or boring, and you're not fun. But bipolarity is kind of a choice. Like if you by choice stretch yourself into extreme highs, well, you'll have to know how to embrace the extreme lows, and this is how bipolarity works. That from extreme excitement to extreme depression, and you need to be able to handle that. Some people think that only loud, like party style action is called fun, but that also comes from inner disbalance and fears of being not fun, yeah, or fear of being too quiet or something. But actually, from the space of inner balance, you can experience all kinds of emotions, but you don't create the wave in the universe that will kind of cancel it. Will have to cancel it and balance it out for you. You will know how to get your full excitement for the moment that you need, and then roll it back and save it in. And same thing for like unpleasant situations, as we said, from the space where no thing really matters. You will be able to understand that the grief is again another kind of imbalance that can be worked out very quickly, by the way, and being stuck in it, or grief or anger, being stuck in it is a disbalance. Going through it swiftly is more of the inner balance. Actually, being able to stand on the inner platform of awareness at all times and not being kind of kicked off by emotions is what makes your life not boring, because you are alert and able to react at everything, and you don't have to super play it out or super kind of suffer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's where we always want to be in this experiencing life, but on a moderate volume.
Well, yeah, volume under our control, like Evia says, not being compelled into action of any kind, but consciously choosing. I'm actually choosing to go in this way. Otherwise, if I'm wanting to mask something that is happening in myself, I'm compelled to go into the loud party environment to mask it for myself. So that's imbalance. Balance would be I'm choosing to go to the party or not because I'm masking something, but because I want to engage with life. So that's the core difference of balanced versus unbalanced.
Yeah, everything becomes your choice and not obligation or inner drive.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so the number 6 would be, what does the inner balance really mean? What are the ingredients? What do we need to balance out for all of this to happen? And there are many, many positions that are not, we cannot attain it overnight, because we have, as long as we're in this cosmic game and we have been given our programs, yeah, so that we come to this earth with a certain program. Astrology is how we're programmed. We're programmed into being reactive and to create tensions, because otherwise the god would play the game and it won't be fun if everybody is the same, and or someone is not compelled to react, and then the game would just stop. So we have come with these programs, which is our astrology, which is the parents and society programming, all those that we have spoken so much about. But so that this balance is imprinted in us from day one. And for us, the personal end of the game is to take more and more areas under our control. When you say stepping in my power or getting back my power, where do we get that power back from? Where we get it back from our own programming. That's from where we retrieve it back. So when we are striving for inner balance, inner peace, inner power, we're actually retrieving the areas, we're retrieving the energy from the areas of life where it has been programmed to leak out. Yeah, such as our own character, programmed by the stars at the minute of our birth. Yeah, so each of us has a certain set of disbalance programmed in, and we're like working in understanding it and correcting it. Correcting it, that means through awareness being able to not react automatically. And these areas are many. So being master of your own kind of human design is one thing. But then you also have the balance of heart and mind, which is an eternal kind of eternal problem.
Heart, mind, and willpower, exactly.
Yeah. They do not usually cooperate as lovers, as we said last time. The masculine and feminine ideally would cooperate as lovers and put together their competence to drive your body forward in a harmonious way. Well, usually they don't. Either mind wins most of the time, or heart wins 30% of time, however it goes. But this is a difficult area to get in balance. Because of the way we have been brought up and we live. So masculine and feminine, of course, is the famous big area again, which is a whole kind of world in itself. And then you have
but it's great to actually work on it, because we have a certain preference that always react with maybe like the fire and anger, and this is what propels us. Or other times we act more with, let me wait for the occasion to be right, and it's never right. So what we want to say here is that there is heart, mind, and willpower, and we need to use always one of the three to monitor the other two. So one can be the witness of the other two. If there's a willpower that is playing like the observer, then it's going to look at, is there a fight between masculine and feminine, and to put them in balance. So from our willpower we say, okay, well, I want first to feel in if this is the right situation, and then if it's right, I want to act. So willpower gets the two. If the mind takes over, then it's trying to monitor heart and willpower. So what it's trying to prevent is that we act out of the place of excess emotion. So when we are triggered, we want to do something really quick. So like the willpower center will be compelled by emotions. So then the mind says, no, stop. You are like triggered. Let's calm down and let's look at this one more time. So that's when the arbiter is the mind. And the third time is when the heart is the arbiter. So heart is observing willpower and mind. So when we want to do things from just some idea that completely doesn't resonate with the moment, the heart says, well, you know what? It doesn't feel right. Stop. Let's gonna observe. Let's get all three in balance. So this is how we are able to always appoint one of the three to be the arbiter of situation, and we are in balance when all three of them are able to kind of cooperate together.
And the next area is balancing the heaven and earth. So those of us who are heavenly oriented, heavenly beings, well, if you don't balance it out yourself, the life will take its balance back and make you look at the earthly things, want it or not. So if you have some insisting earthly matters knocking at your door, think, where have you gone a little bit too celestial and too detached from reality? Because it will, you have to weave through. You have to bring your spiritual knowledge into the matter. So this is what, is kind of, even though there's no point, but a little point anyways, is that we spiritualize the matter. So for every high spiritual kind of insight that we reach, well, we have to bring it in a matter like what we do right now with you. This is our way of grounding our research and realizations, is to kind of transmit it immediately. Even if we are talking to ourselves, it still kind of voices it into this dimension. Yeah, and then very, very important aspect is that all spiritual knowledge that you have learned, everything that has been given to you, to ground it into your reality, so that it doesn't stay unrealized. So also balance between the ideas and making them happen. Yeah, sometimes there are too many ideas and not enough strength to make them happen or act upon them. Or sometimes there are no ideas but energy and willingness to do something. So you see, there are like millions of ways that could be in or out of balance in this way. But we have to pay attention. If we pay attention every day to, well, have we been lately too much in our heavenly kind of vibes and neglecting the earth matters? Or have we been in balance with body, mind, spirit? Yeah, have you done your physical exercises or work? Or have you nourished yourself, your soul, with some good music or some good insightful video? And have you actually exercised your mind in kind of constructive and creative ways? So these three, the body, mind, spirit, are the ones who will influence your immediate reality. But the area that is the most out of balance is the mind, of course. That heart and mind combination is hugely suffering, but also within the mind itself. You have two kinds of minds that are always fighting. One is the worried mind, the earthly mind, the one that doesn't know, and the other is the higher mind. The mind who is able to create, who is able to put things in perspective and be constructive. And even between the two minds, higher and lower mind, there is this potential of disbalance.
What I'm thinking is we will put in our Telegram group a little chart of several of those potential disbalanced areas, so that you have a clearer picture of all areas where we can kind of be out of balance or imbalance. Because I'm thinking it's maybe getting a lot of different areas.
Yeah, so there are many areas, but that's why we wanted to show you that from where that balance is actually happening. Yeah, and there's complex solution to this and more simple solution. So our last seventh myth is that there's usually misunderstanding about how to go about bringing that inner balance. And there are two little bit random ways to think about it. The first one is I can get myself in balance with doing namaste and a little meditation, and that will bring me in balance. But now think of that to bring balance, you have to balance like millions of areas in your life: your higher mind, lower mind, heart and mind, feminine,
Spirit,
masculine,
matter,
inner parents, heaven and earth, and
that life, light, dark.
yeah. So it's immense. It's immense in how many areas the polarization is happening. So no, we can't just do the namaste and bring everything into balance. With a simple exercise, what we can do, we can usually do, we bring in some sort of balance the energy of the moment. That for sure. So we're bringing maybe our kind of heart and mind coherence for 5 minutes in the right place, so that we can start being constructive. But it will not, the 5-minute tools will not bring a permanent balance. There's only awareness that can do that. So the other approach would be, oh no, but it takes years in monastery and kind of heavy meditations to bring balance. Like you have to go the full-on 10 years in Buddhist temple for it. That's also not quite true, although that's a way for monks definitely to reach the inner balance. We can do it in different ways. That actually combine with our daily lives and everything else that we have to do. So what are the ways besides a 5-minute exercise and 12 years in the monastery? It's self-observation daily, installing that witness that observes which areas are a little bit polarized. Yeah, is it your material life suffering? Is it your relationship that's mirroring something? Is it your mood? Is it your mind driving you crazy? Like identifying really the areas that are pulling too much on one side. Yeah. It's like, you know, you have a car with an empty like tire and full tire that's like going sideways. So first of all, identifying the area in which it's pulling sideways, or there's like a huge swing, and then through the awareness, actually finding an individual method for each of those areas. For masculine and feminine polarity, it will be thoroughly understanding it. For heart and mind, it will be meditation, and everything works together. Whichever area you are bringing in balance will automatically work on other areas.
That's a good
So
thing.
your entry point could be the polarities, which will click in heart and mind alignment, which will click in the heaven and earth integration, because balanced masculine and feminine will actually know how to act in most of the domains with precision and intuition at the same time. So my lucky guess would be that bringing the inner masculine and feminine thoroughly in balance will solve most of other disbalances.
At least it will have some impact of them, and then we can fine-tune the other ones. But there will be so much more balance than when we started. So the important thing is take one of these and work on that one, and then see what else needs fine-tuning.
Or the ultimate shortcut would go like this: thoroughly working on feeling of loss, thoroughly working on integrating the trust. Remember, like a few weeks ago we spoke about trust, retrieving all the trust from anywhere where you have put it out of yourself, bringing it back to yourself, being in complete peace with loss of everything. You can die tomorrow, you can live forever, you can have or not have, to do or not do. Add to this Jive's philosophy, and this is the ultimate shortcut, which is powerful but very difficult to kind of sincerely integrate. So your awareness way would be to understand, to understand the areas and to work on them. But if you can manage this one thing of complete trust, which will automatically ignite the surrender, the acceptance of things, acceptance of everything and everyone just the way it is, while keeping the active possibility to do and to, do whatever you want or not do anything at all, because none of that matters anyways. Yeah. From that point of view, if you dwell in this fundamental understanding of impermanence and futility but preciousness of life, you will not have many questions on the top of this.
I think we have to actually come up with a little method to help with this. So yeah, we will make sure to include that in the next offering that we have. It's the method that would just cover all of these that we talked about, so that we help in balancing this.
So Sylvia says it often helps her to name how she feels and then take it from there. Yeah. So how does the inner balance feels actually? It feels like happily, slightly inspiredly dynamic, ready for anything. It's like it's a feeling of it's a beautiful morning out there. I feel fresh, calm. I don't really want or need anything, but I'm ready for any kind of miracle today. So that's the feeling of
and
inner
inspired
balance.
to do
It's
something.
It's a little bit sparkling, peaceful but sparkling dynamic state. Yeah, inspired to do but not compelled to do anything, where you can actually just think, okay, maybe I'll do this, and just going and being able to go for what you want. So that is the feeling of inner balance. So anything that does not feel like that, you can go down the thread and see where does it come from. Yeah, if you wake up with heaviness, or if you are stuck or lost in any ways, well, there is some area that has gone out of balance. So besides the trust, what else can you do to bring this feeling of deep and permanent alignment? And not that we even need it. It's just more comfortable if we choose to stay here for a while. It is really more comfortable, and we can actually, from that point on, we can start becoming a creator. So if you care about creating something in your life out of your energetic state, well, that's why we need this alignment of polarities and everything. Because only from that point do our creative thought carry enough energy to manifest into physical reality. When we try to create from unbalanced state of mind and energy, well, we'll create the exact unbalanced reality for ourselves. Yeah, the people who try to manifest through greed actually get something really unpleasant in return. So that is if there is a point in striving for that inner balance, well, it would be then you can actually feel that empowerment of being somewhat, to some extent, the creator of your reality, and not really before that. So you can achieve a temporary states of inner balance, or when you kind of get in the groove of observing and doing it regularly, you can become like seamlessly reducing the gaps of disbalance. Does it make sense? Do you have any questions?
yeah, the point is awareness. And the point is awareness and kind of waking up and walking on that acrobatic tightrope with a balancing rod, and not forgetting to actually adjust our balance as we go. So how does it sound to you guys? Is it too many things to keep on in awareness?
Or we have completely knocked you out of balance.
I didn't know that there's so many. Yes, Sylvia.
We don't hear you, Sylvia.
Or maybe it's our, let me see. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you knocked me out. I think I just have never really thought about it this thoroughly. But for me, it is more of a feeling state rather than, I just didn't think about it this thoroughly. But the feeling that when I can name, when I feel anxious or kind of unsettled and just still knocking around, and finally I got to the state of being that what is what I'm feeling, or what am I trying to avoid by moving around and sitting here and sitting there and eating a little bit and when I can say that actually I am sad or I am whatever, and then face it. So going to the hell and face it that, okay, I am sad and I can feel sadness and it's okay. Then suddenly things start to shift and get back to the balance.
Exactly.
So, but no, I don't feel knocked out. I'm feeling actually inspired because it just feels a lot, but actually it can happen in a spirit of the moment. That's how I feel. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing. It's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, Sylvia, this is very good for everyone to remember. So we keep repeating it, but let's repeat one more time that awareness is the light that dissolves any kind of emotional, energetic state at all instantly. It's a magical miracle remedy. So exactly as you said, Sylvia, that you recognize and take responsibility for what you feel. Okay, I feel angry. I feel like I could, just bang on that person's head. Yes, I do feel. Being honest and recognizing exactly the state that you feel, so that you get the emotion out of the way, and then you can be constructive and say, oh yeah, but so I'm angry because I was hurt. Why am I hurt? Is it my feminine that's acting out and expecting? So if you care, then you can really bring that awareness shining deeper in the corridor, yeah, and find the root. If you don't have time or patience or inspiration to shine that awareness till the depths of the thing, even this exactly will shift you out of the mood of the moment, but then at some point, you can do the work anyway. So really great.
Yeah. And here, shining awareness on the matter that we previously didn't think deep enough about is kind of what we call, shedding light or enlightenment. That's why we go for enlightenment and not endarkenment in this context, because we want to know about what it is so that we can make informed decision and not being unconsciously pushed in the dark. So that's that sense of the word, why light and why not dark, in this sense, ignorance versus awareness. In darkness, in this sense, would be going for less awareness and more ignorance, which certainly does happen in some parts of the society.
Well, actually, even if you take it, let's do a mind twist, yeah? If you think of deeply kind of unaware people, we have a little judgment about that state, yeah? And we think that they should, bring more awareness. But actually, if they are balanced in their unawareness, it's totally fine. They do not need anything. If they are acting aggressively out of that ignorance, they are creating polarization, which actually brings then the light forces to balance out their kind of active and aggressive ignorance. Yeah. So if everybody would be peacefully balanced in whichever kind of state, in the ignorance or in enlightenment, there wouldn't be any problem. Nobody would try to kind of balance each other out, and everybody would be happy where they are. So there is nothing absolutely wrong with ignorance or non-willing to evolve, because that is another state of expression, that's all. If we take away the judgment.
Before it starts encroaching in other people's lives and freedoms, actually recently I have seen the movie, segments from the movie, I wouldn't watch it again, but just segments from the movie City of God, Cidade de Deus, from Rio, favela of Rio, with these little kids that have absolutely no chance to grow up because they are exposed to violence and weapons and little gangs from their kids. So that's the danger of ignorance, is that it's easily inflamed into making super immature and radical decisions. And this is the danger of ignorance. Otherwise, if they can kind of be living peacefully in their ignorance and being productive and in balance, like Evia says, there would be no problem with it. But unfortunately, it's a very volatile state. And we have not come here to stay in the state of ignorance. We have come here to actually play the game of consciousness.
Or not.
And do something with it or not.
Exactly. So keep for some time or not in mind, because it's an amazing shortcut to deep states of inner balance, because we give way too much importance to ourselves, to what we do, our mission, our expression. And, we can do the same thing, but without being very invested into that, like personally, and then feeling offended and hurt when something gets in our way. So keeping the option in open that you might have gotten the point of life or totally missed it. Or maybe there is no point in life. Yeah. So play with this mind twist just to kind of relax that mental...
Having to do something.
Yeah, having to do something or having to not do something. Yeah. So that it all becomes really this jamming and improvisation with life and what you have and what you could have. And my feeling is that deep down we are playing, after a certain point we're playing somebody else's game, like the cosmic game. And inbuilt in us is a possibility to step out of being in somebody else's game and start our own. And this is where it gets interesting. That when you realize that you are being played as a white, for example, imagine the chessboard. So if you have preponderance to light and you're dressed in white and all that, and you believe in no harm and you cherish life, then you're most probably playing the white,
being played as white, white,
being played as the white piece of
white set,
of chess, and other guys who are dressed in black and drive black Mercedeses and things like this, well, they are being played through the black chess figures, yeah. And as in a chess, you know, there are like different categories. There are those little front ones, and then the king and the queen. So it's a full-on game. So if you think, like, if you look at yourself and see, am I being played by this or the other? And do I actually have a choice to kind of say, okay, good for me. Now it's enough. Can I start my own game? Or can I skip the squares in different way?
So
it's an idea to play with.
Yeah, well, actually, maybe there's a movie that we can recommend that we recently watched that gave a nice insight of that in this type of looking at things, and it's Eternals. Eternals. This is, I think, just
it's a Marvel
coming
movie,
out. Yeah.
Very recent, maybe like end of last year.
Yeah, we saw it in the movie theaters when we were in Nepal, but it's, I think, starting to be available on streaming platforms. The Eternals.
So you can see how it looks from the perspective when being in the game, and what's the higher reality that might be a little bit surprising or shocking. So yeah, keeping the mind wide open, keeping all the options about right and wrong and good and bad very, very flexible, not being stuck in any preference, strong position, opinion, doubts, fears, or if you have anything to defend, like really iron it out. There shouldn't be anything that you need to defend, because true consciousness and true balance does not defend anything. Accepts things pretty much the way they are and do not defend, because it doesn't really matter, yeah, in the bigger picture. But for the sake of the game, things have to matter, otherwise we wouldn't play it.
Any other insights or questions or ideas? And if not, I'll leave you with these things to think about.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, Vanita has the hand up. Yes, Vanita.
Hi, I was just thinking as well, it's one of the things that it's just kind of, sometimes you just allow, it's more of like a trusting life to take care of itself sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I think is that too, it's like sometimes we resist so badly what we are faced with, like especially with things like death and breakups and all this kind of thing, and then you're like, oh, why is this, and you have that feeling, and then I'm thinking, for me, what works, I mean, as I said, recently is I'm not feeling it so much, but what works in the past, and also I guess now to a certain degree, is more of like, okay. So that's what it's also the consciousness, that's being conscious of the being aware of that, as well as you said, Sylvia, but also it's just kind of allowing, like trusting life. I think trusting life to deal with it, and then it's like, okay, like I'm sure something better will come out of this, that kind of thing, and of course being aware of like, is there anything else which was in my part that caused this stress or conflict, and working on that if it needs to be, or sometimes it's just maybe that situation was there for a purpose and then it's gone for because you need to go to the next thing, that kind of thing. So I think it's also about, for me, it's also about trusting life and just going with it, instead of resisting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have a vision when you say this. when you say this trusting life, I have a vision of, like the ski slope. And you can trust life that you will arrive alive at the bottom of the ski slope, and then you kind of throw yourself down. But the whole thing of a game is, are you also able to maneuver? Or you will stumble down, and like you trusted you will somehow be alive at the end. Or you will kind of really enjoy the ride because you interact with life. It's not just kind of dragging you down. So that's kind of the vision that I had.
And the conscious trust is something that is permanent, and not only when you like your solutions, you run out of solutions, so now I trust life because I'm really out of ideas. So it's this like permanent trust that we spoke about like 2 T's ago, which is absolute kind of infinite trust in only your own ability to channel life through you in without judgment, and your ability to respond if needed and when needed. So like even trust in life has to be kind of conscious and aware, so that it's not escaping the responsibility. So, but it's a beautiful place, which is the shortcut to one of the shortcuts to inner balance. So great.
Yeah, I think you also need to do your part of the work.
Yeah.
It's not just this is it.
Yeah.
But then you only can do a certain amount. You can't control the outside stuff and another person. So or deaths or whatever it is, people will die and all these other dramas that goes around, and sometimes you just need to kind of do your part, take care of yourself and take care of the stuff, and then trust in life for the rest of it, and things will be okay. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. And trusting that you do not need to micromanage the universe at every level. And that there is a greater intelligence operating in the whole system, and that whether you worry or not,
the sun will come out anyway. So,
yeah.
And if they can actually pull that out for the sun to come out, then they can probably also deal with easier things such as our life conditions.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much. It was beautiful to see the beautiful faces again. And I have to comment, Zane, look, you have a beautiful shining circle above your head, like the real angel. So, yeah, the halo. So, sending you all lots of love and big hug. And thank you for actually co-exploring this with us, because this will shape itself into something quite useful that we'll put together, so that we can balance ourselves from inside and the outside with a little bit more precision than till now. That's kind of what I'm seeing that's coming out of this.
Yeah, so embrace Mars and Venus holding hands. That's a rare kind of moment to enjoy. And if your inner masculine and feminine are not totally in love, you will see exactly why and where, because they will have to. So be ready and be proactive. And see what's going on, and this will be the moment to either have a high levels of bliss or still some reminders of polarity balancing.
Okay, guys, thank you. Lots of love. See you next week.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Yeah.